Hidden within the damp leaf litter of the northeast, you will find the elusive earth-tongue fungus, a dark, shadowy-like marvel with intricate details that most people would walk right over. Today I am going to weave woodland myth into every frame, transforming these dark shadows with intricate details into breathtaking works of ethereal art. So here you can see two of my first earth-tongue fungi finds on the back of my camera. Here I'm using my OM1 camera with the Olympus System Zuko 90mm macro lens, placed flat on the ground, because these fungi are so small that any tripod would be too high. I wanted to get some of the foreground vegetation between my lens and the earth tongues so that it would help to frame them and give the perception that they are surrounded by greenery. Moving on over my camera to those fungi, those of you with eagle eyes might spot a couple of butterwax caps nearby. But how many earth tongues can you spot if I slow this video down? A funny story about this session. I was taking photographs of butterwax caps and blackening wax caps just 2 foot away. I knew that there were earth tongues nearby, as a friend who volunteers in this nature reserve had told me. I sat and I looked for ages for them, but I could not see them, so I gave up and I just enjoyed photographing the butterwax caps. Then my friend messaged me and I explained where I was, and she was only 10 minutes away, so she came along to show me. And I couldn't believe that I'd been lying on the ground on my mat with my head only 1 to 2 foot away from these. And she had only spotted a few, but when we sat and looked together, we found over 50 of them spread over just a couple of foot. And we were quite happy about that. I have found that networking with people regularly that visit the same park every week who have an interest in nature is very beneficial. You make some lovely friends and you get to share your enthusiasm with similar-minded people. Collectively, we can map out what grows in the park each year, keeping records and noting any new species. Having these records can be important when new plans come up to alter parts of the park, because we can alert the authorities to the rarer species and areas that need to be preserved. And we can also liaise with larger nature organisations who have specialists that sometimes investigate our finds just to determine the precise identification. And some of our network have even found rare species. This is just one of the joys of nature photography and of returning to the same areas regularly year-round. So getting back to my photo setup, I can count 18 earth tongues right next to these ones. You can see that I have 2 small LED lights lying on each side of the earth tongues. It was quite a dark and cloudy day, and there were trees all around me blocking a lot of the light too. I needed that extra light to illuminate the details on these near black fungi, as they are covered in tiny hairs, which I want to show in my final stacked images, just as you can see in this close-up. My settings for the first stack were f5.6, so that I could get a nice out of focus foreground and background, a shutter speed of 60 and an ISO of 400. I set my camera up to take more bracketed photos than I would need, 90, with an increment of 1 between them. In the end, I would only need 75 of these photos. I set my focus to manual and I focus slightly in front of the closest fungi. I also used 2-second timer so that I didn't cause any camera shake. To process the bracketed photos, I used Helicon software, opening up the 75 images that had parts in focus. I chose to render them using stacking method C with smoothing set to 1. Here you can see Helicon is building up all the parts that are in focus from each image and putting them together. Once stacked, I always name my stacks numerically for each date, and I also add the amount of photos that it took to stack, as these details are useful to have in the name, and it saves me hunting for the details when people ask. I do zoom in and check the resultant stack in Helicon just to ensure that it's made a good job and that there are no artefacts. And in this case it did a great job. So I opened it up in Camera Raw as it was saved as a DNG file, and I made some minor tweaks, and then I sent it straight into Photoshop. And if you enjoy your images straight out of camera, then you might not choose to do anything more. But I like to create the best that I can out of an image by reducing any distractions. And whilst this is lovely as it is, there is just too much debris on that fungi for my photo OCD. So I carefully cloned out the debris, and I softened some of the distracting bokeh on the right of the fungi, reducing the orange a little bit in the process. And that was this image done, and I was quite happy with this. But I also wanted to create something a little bit different, something that people had not seen before. And with these alien-like dark tongues coming out of the earth rather than the green vegetation. So I was surrounded by lots of fallen autumn leaves, so I tried placing some of these in front and behind another group of earth tongues. And looking through my camera, they looked very dramatic against the orange leaves. So you can see I used the same sort of setup for this stack. My camera settings were the same apart from the ISO, which I changed from 400 to 250 as it had become a little bit brighter. You can see that I still used the LED lights, but I moved them closer in an attempt to define the sides of the fungi more. This time I only needed a stack of 48 photos as the fungi were closer together. And then I went through the same process of stacking them in Helicon using method C. I had actually taken 80 photos in this full stack, and this is the full stack put together in Helicon. And you might notice that the leaf is in focus just behind the earth tongues, which looks okay, but I wanted a different look. So I went through my photos and I removed all of the ones that had the leaf in focus, keeping only the photos with parts of the fungi in focus. As a result, I had 48 photos in the new stack, none of the ones in front or behind. And with an aperture of f5.6, this was the outcome. Now this appeals to me. I absolutely love this effect. But when you zoom in again, yeah, you can see there's a lot of woodland floor debris covering the fungi. But plenty of nice details at 100% there. I proceeded to clone out all of this debris, and also there were a few other things that were pulling my eye away from the main subjects, such as this area down here, the black area. Then you get this light bit here and a few darker spots around the image that also draw my attention. So I made my adjustments and this is how it looked. And you can really notice the difference. I've removed these areas down here and this area of green bouquet. There must have been a bit of green on the leaf in the foreground. I removed that as well. To me, that looks a lot nicer. Next, I wanted to make the image pop a little bit more, as to me it was lacking a little bit of impact. So I adjusted the contrast, added a bit of a spotlight effect, and a little vignetting, and it all helped to really pull the eye towards the central subjects. And this is my end result, and I love this. It's more of a fine art, dark ethereal woodlands look. It looks like these alien earth tongues are coming out from the bowels of the earth, emerging from hellfire. It's a completely different look, and certainly very different to the 80 image stack. I was quite thrilled that this image was well received in the SWPP competition, gaining a gold and then going on to be nominated in Botanical and Fungi Photographer of the Year for 2025. I had 2 out of the 3 shortlisted for 2025, and whilst this one didn't win, my shortlisted slime mould image did win.
And the winner is Angie Wallace!
If you've enjoyed this video, then you might enjoy one of my upcoming videos, which will be all about slime mould photography. You don't have to go out into the woodlands all the time to capture these fascinating tiny subjects. I photograph many in my garden or sat at my dining table. So do tune in to find out how I do this. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.